In my last video, I talked about my top 5 favorite support weapons in Destiny 2. Well, something just as important as weapons is your armor. If you enjoy playing support like I do, you know you have a ton of options to choose from, especially if you're a Warlock. So, I figured I'd take just a few minutes out of your day to go over my top 5 favorite Warlock exotics. My name's Doc, your host for all things healing, and let's get into this. So starting off at number 5, we have the Cenotaph mask. So I'll be honest, I very rarely, if ever, actually use Cenotaph these days, but I do have some very fond memories with this helmet. For those that don't know, the way this exotic works is that it will steadily reload your equipped trace rifle from reserves. Damaging a vehicle, boss, or champion with a trace rifle marks them as a target, and if an ally defeats a marked target, special ammo is generated for you, and heavy ammo is generated for your allies. Once upon a time, the Cenotaph mask was incredibly popular for GM Nightfalls. If you paired it with Divinity, you had an Overload Champ stun, basically infinite ammo for you and your team, and a strong debuff with just one exotic weapon and one exotic armor. Not only was it a strong and fun support build for pretty much anything outside of raids, it also gave Warlocks a reason to use Divinity again, even though it had fallen out of the meta a bit. Cenotaph today is pretty much dead, to the point that I don't think I've seen anyone use it, including myself, in a couple years now. There are a few reasons for this, ranging from a much better ammo economy to the release of weapons like Alethanim, some nerfs here and there, and the fact that you could land a 747 on this thing. I mean, look at it, seriously. Despite it not being meta for quite a while now, I do think it's a really cool exotic armor that I have some very fond memories of. In the number 4 spot, we have Phoenix Protocol, a classic support exotic right here. I know y'all remember how busted this thing was in the Reckoning game mode back during Season of the Drifter. Phoenix Protocol is a very simple exotic chest piece. When you get kills and assists in your Well of Radiance super, you get super energy. That's it. Simple, easy, straight to the point. Even despite a few rounds of nerfs here and there over the years, Phoenix Protocol has remained a simple but strong exotic for neutral game Well of Radiance spam. There are tons of places you can still use it today. GMs, Onslaught, Catch Crash, Nightmare Containment, and much, much more. Pretty much anywhere that you can stand still for 30 seconds and shoot a bunch of ads, this will be a strong support option to give your team plenty of healing and damage buffs. You can also build into it a bit more than you'd expect. Maxing out your super stat and throwing on Ember of Combustion can really let you crank out some very powerful wells. I don't personally use it quite as much as some of the other exotics on this list, but I do like to throw it on when and where I can. In the number 3 spot, we've got Lunafaction boots. So if you played during year 2 of Destiny 2, I'm sure you remembered these boots as the boots that let raid teams one-phase Galron during the Crown of Sorrow raid race. The way Lunafactions work today is that you gain increased hipfire range and accuracy for primary ammo weapons. Your rifts also grant increased reload speed to you and allies standing within them. Then empowering rifts increase weapon range for you and your allies standing in them. So how did this let teams one-phase a raid boss? Well, a long time ago, what these used to do was, while standing in a rift, you and your allies gained a bottomless magazine, or in other words, you didn't have to reload. Bungie recognized how ridiculously strong that was, so they changed it to the current iteration back during Shadowkeep. Even despite the nerf though, Lunafactions were still kind of the go-to exotic for boss DPS until very recently. A bottomless mag is great, but increased reload speed is still good for helping maximize your group's DPS. They're still very good today, but there was a fairly recent change to another pair of exotic boots that actually made those a bit better for raid teams than Lunafactions. It also just so happens that they're next on my list. So, let's talk about number 2, Boots of the Assembler. The way that this works is that when standing in a healing rift, you create Noble Seekers that seek out allies and heal them. When standing in an empowering rift or Well of Radiance, the Noble Seekers grant you and your allies a buff called Blessing of the Sky, which will grant an extra 35% weapon damage. Those Noble Seekers can also grant you Noble rounds when you're using Lumina, which also grants the Blessing of the Sky buff. And when Noble Seekers or Lumina's Noble Rounds hit an ally, you gain class ability energy. Finally, these boots also give Lumina increased airborne effectiveness. So that already sounds like boots of the Assembler have a lot going for them, and they absolutely do. But there were two major changes made to these boots in the Fate Saga that really made them stand out. Firstly, those who haven't used the boots in a while may remember that these boots actually used to extend the rifts you stand in rather than grant class ability energy. Personally, I think the class ability energy is stronger simply because it doesn't punish you for repositioning. The other change, and it's super simple, but it's a big one. The Noble Seekers can target people standing inside your rifts and wells. That's right. The only thing that was preventing this exotic from being the DPS support meta was that the Noble Rounds only targeted allies standing outside of your rifts and wells. Since that's changed, everyone can gain Blessing of the Sky without having to awkwardly position themselves away from you. Thanks to those two changes that happened a while back, I don't take these bad boys off very often, and when I do, it's usually for our final exotic armor piece of this list. And in the number one spot, we've got Speaker's Sight. I'm sure no one is surprised by this. Speaker's Sight has been an insanely strong Warlock support exotic since the day it was released, and in any content where you don't have a damage check, it's the king of support. The way this exotic helmet works is it simply turns your healing grenade into a restorative turret that hits allies with the restoration buff and occasionally spawns an orb of power. I'll be the first to admit, I was skeptical when this thing released. I thought, it's just a healing turret. Can it really be that strong? Well, yeah, it absolutely was and still is that strong. Passive restoration for your entire team is ridiculously strong. And even though this did get some nerfs, it's still my go-to exotic for pretty much anything outside of boss encounters and raids and dungeons. This helmet has carried many teams in things like GMs, legendary campaigns, and much more. What I really love about this exotic, and the reason it just barely beats Boots of the Assembler, is due to its sheer versatility. Boots of the Assembler is still a bit limiting in that you have to stand in a rift to get it to work, and you get the most out of it by using Lumina, which I'm certainly not complaining about, but still. For Speaker's Sight, there's really never a bad time to use it. Need to move around a lot? Speaker's Sight. Need to hold still? Speaker's Sight. Playing in a group? Speaker's Sight. Playing solo? Speaker's Sight. PvE? Speaker's Sight. PvP? You get the idea. You'll never go wrong with using this exotic, and even if you're not a support enjoyer, there's still so much you can do with this exotic that can benefit you. And I think that was it. That was my top 5 favorite Warlock support exotics. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video and found it useful. If you have any favorite support exotics, even if they're from Titan or Hunter, please feel free to let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to check out the link on my page to follow me on stuff and join my Discord server, and maybe consider subscribing if you'd like to see more videos like this one. I think all I've got left to say is that I've been Doc. Take care of yourselves, be good to others, remember that you matter, and I will catch y'all in the next one.